how are you really firing fast?
So in the best way you will do it is when you hire, you say we have a 60 and a 90-day trial, and we're going to review it both times to see if you're going to keep your job in place. And so if you set it up at the very beginning, it makes it a little bit easier where day one, you put 2 dates on the calendar, your 60-day review and your 90-day review, and say, we are going to hire you temporarily. And then these are going to be your 2 review dates. And that's when we're going to decide if it's the right fit or not. Right. So if you're clear at the beginning,
it helps decide that. How do you decide that at the executive level? Maybe Mike, you chime in too. Like when you may not want anyone at that level to even make a decision. You're not allowed to make a decision for 60 days. You're just in learning. How do you do that with an executive level person? With a transactional level person, you can determine whether or not they're adding value or getting the work done or whatever in 30 to 60 days. But a strategic, executive, they may not know enough about your entire ecosystem to provide enough input or decision making in that much time. What do you do then?
I'll answer really quick and see what everybody else says. I think it's a tougher one to quantify, but the reality is yeah,
good answer.
You just know right away. Like, does it feel like, square peg, round hole, or does it feel like this is making sense? Like, is he speaking the same language? When I say like, oh yeah, this is the type of way we do this, are they like, yeah, they've learned the same thing or not? Because C-level stuff, they should be freaking experts and they should know and they should be the fit and it should be like super familiar to them. And if it's not, I don't think there's a whole lot of pivoting people can do into different styles. I do
Mike,
have, go ahead, jump off me.
Yeah, Mike, I mean, if we know, why don't we do it?
That's a good question.
Well, I don't want to make excuses for us, but I read a Harvard Business Review paper a long time ago that said it takes somebody 8 months to really figure out their job. So I think we have to segment what we're really talking about here, even just back to what Aaron just said, because if you know, then that's probably a culture type fit. Do they fit in the organization, or just black and white? This is just the wrong person. If you know, and it's, black and white, they just don't have the experience or the pedigree to do this job. And then yeah, it's easy to fire quick. If it's a culture fit, I think you're going to know early on too. But I think the challenge with hiring, especially at more complicated positions and levels, is, as Harvard said, I mean, it takes 8 months for somebody to really figure out their job. So, in my case, I think the guy was with me for 10 months or 12 months. I knew earlier just from a cultural standpoint, but Ashish, to your first question, how do you do the 90-day thing? So even if, and that was the case with this particular individual, even if you're not letting them make decisions and you're saying, hey, look, for the first 60 days, you're watching, you're sitting in meetings, that doesn't mean that person shouldn't be giving you back their feedback on what they see, what they would be doing, the changes they would be making. I think if you're going to make somebody sit for 60 days without getting involved with your team at that C level or, even more management level stuff, I think really just spending time with them and getting their viewpoints on, what they would be doing if they were making decisions today, because you're going to get a pretty good pulse on their decision-making ability after that. But if it's a culture issue, you probably are going to know sooner rather than later.
I think for me, there's plenty of bad decisions. I think beyond what everyone has said here, and I'm not going to repeat it, I think I have to get better at learning how to cut faster. I think we end up being very patient, very kind, giving people the benefit of the doubt. But if your gut is really telling you that this is probably not a good fit, and there are things instinctually that you are just like, oh, that was a little weird, or that I wouldn't have not even get close to that decision being made, or wow, that interaction was awkward. I think you have to address those things like right there and then on the spot. Like, wait, how did you get here? Or like, why did you deal with this way? And I think that's the lesson for me in a couple of recent ones, to be able to pull the plug faster. I think also what we think is like, the insurance policy is like, let's just keep it going for a few more months and see, and let's provide some cover and we'll see what happens. But reality is, I think the organization knows whether somebody fits too quickly. And it's better just to pull the plug on somebody than to like try to make it fit. It actually makes us, I mean, the answer for me has been, it's like the insecurity of leadership to pull the plug faster. It's like, oh, well, it's going to reflect on my poor decision making that I pulled somebody into the organization that wasn't a good fit. It's like, how did they even make this decision? Well, just be patient. Let's see what happens. Let it work itself out, guys.
I think there is
In
that
reality-
legal concern too. Like kind of like what you said, like you don't like before you fire somebody, you want to like lay the groundwork. So you want to like quickly put in the things. Like I think you kind of alluded to that, like taking the steps first instead of doing it right away.
Well, I also have like, I have a current situation. This is going to go live soon, but that's okay. Is that I have a current situation where I'm like, cut it now. And I have HR and I have some ops folks telling me like, slow down. You need to take your time. You need to have a 30-day severance. But I'm like, no,
Right.
cut
like
it today. Cut it today. No severance. Like this needs to go. This is a virus. This is really bad. And so you end up having these outer forces too. And as a business owner, you got to understand like, what risk am I willing to take? What risk am I not willing to take? The only other last thing I'll add is on the lower level positions, the more transactional positions, I don't have this issue, but in more executive leadership positions, Mike, you know about this, is like when you're giving that much authority to somebody, this happened to me twice. People end up speaking on your behalf. And I think that it's a really dangerous thing to let other people speak on your behalf. And I've learned that lesson where like nobody speaks for me except for me. If you have an opinion and you want to go and use that authority in the organization to go try things and experiment things, that's all great and dandy. Go ahead. But do not go in the organization and say, Ashish said, this is what he wants to do. This is what he wants to do. And if I didn't say that, I've caught that a couple of times. And that's a really treacherous slope. And so that's one thing I really look out for. And I make it super clear in our organizations. Like, look, I can be cavalier. I can say a lot of things. I can do a lot of things, but I am me, not you. You are you. Do not speak on my behalf. Like, let me say what I want to say. You do you. But it's very dangerous when people at that level use you as a tool to get what they want. It's not necessarily what the company wants or what you want. It's what they want. And they can use you as a tool. So that got to be careful of in all parts of the organization. I think that's an issue. But Mooch, you pulling up something? Or Maddie, go ahead.
I remember seeing this when I was going through a program called Recruit Select, was essentially how to recruit, identify talent, select them, onboard them properly, all that good stuff. And this one has rang true so many times. And it's very interesting. Aaron or Mike, you said a little bit of this earlier. It's like when you get an A player and you've never had one before, you feel it, you see it. That impact is felt immediately, right? And they really do fall into this category of talent, pushes for solutions, shares your goals and fulfills your needs as a natural byproduct of fulfilling their own, knows what they want or is actively searching to know, pushes you constantly, is continuing to raise the bar, wants to be associated with talent, usually focuses their talk on language of challenge and achievement, gives energy, right? And I don't need to go through the non-talent side, but I'll wrap it up on this so we can segue into another discussion. But it made me think about how I think the biggest challenge that most entrepreneurs struggle with when it comes to hiring is the fact that we are all humans and we drive most of what we do with emotion, whether we like to acknowledge it or not. And so we find ways of subconsciously or consciously creating stories and narratives that either buy somebody a little bit more time or maybe they'll course correct or, oh, that's not that big of a deal. But it reminds me of a mastermind I was in with Gary Keller like 6 or 7 years ago. And it became one of my favorite quotes. I say it all the time. I use it all the time. I've tweaked it a little bit. But he said something to me that I think applies to this narrative around hiring and talent acquisition, and also either keeping them or letting them go. And he basically said on this exact topic, slow to hire, fast to fire, was I am a loving person, but my standards are not.
Yes,
and
that's so good.
When you think about most human beings, we care about other people. Naturally, it's just the way we are. We're not out to screw somebody over. We're not out to, make a buck off of somebody's back, and not like, we care about people. We want to give people an opportunity. We want to make their lives better, especially if you're an entrepreneur and you run your own business, right? We are in the business of making impact. Yes, we like money. Yes, we like freedom. But at the end of the day, we're all passionate about creating a difference and an impact through what we're doing in business. And so we let us as human beings trying to love one another actually trump leading each other and holding each other to a standard and a status that is ruthless, that is non-negotiable. And at leadership levels or even lowership levels in organizations, I think when you think about the people who get the most results and have built some of the most insane businesses, when I heard that quote, and then it was like a month later and I read Elon Musk's biography, I was like, holy shit, this dude is ruthless. He has got a mission. He's got standards around that mission. And if there's one person that is not upholding that standard, it could have been his best assistant and employee of the longest standing. The second she dropped below the bar, boom, gone. Didn't even think about it.
Hey guys, if you enjoyed this snippet and want to catch the full episode, head over to our YouTube channel, The King's Table Podcast. The link is right down in the description below. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button, like, and ring that bell for notifications, and you are not going to want to miss this amazing content that we have for you every Friday. And remember, we love hearing from you, so drop your thoughts, questions, or feedback that you might have in the comments. We read everything, and we want you guys to respond so we can engage with you. It means the world to us. A big thank you for being part of the King's Table community, and if you found value in today's episode, remember that the cost of listening is that you must share it with somebody that may benefit, whether it's your friend, your family, your coworkers. So please keep sharing, keep engaging, and until next time, stay royal.